All right, everybody, this is Eric Hayden from the National Weather Service in Newport, Morehead City. We did mute the line, so you shouldn't have to worry too much about any background noise. Much like we've done the other two webinars, we're going to give about 5 minutes for the briefing that we are in the process of sending out to you. Ryan's working to put that on the website and in your email. First things first, rain across your area now. One thing I wanted to address, because it certainly I'm sure was a little unnerving for some of you folks up in Pitt County, Lenoir, and Greene, when we had some sleet as early as 9:30 this morning, and we're still getting some ice pellets. That's going to continue for the next couple hours. Not really a big deal. It's mainly rain. And as we transition to snow, especially after dark, that's when we'll be more concerned with accumulations. I want to show you the reason why we're not that concerned for the next couple hours. The surface temperatures are very warm. I'm not sure how the resolution is on your screen, but we're 45 degrees right now in Greenville, 43 in Washington. So we're in the low to mid 40s. So we're not going to have any issues with that sleet. So primarily rain with some sleet mixing in. This goes for everybody. As we get to that transition overnight tonight, don't be shocked if you see some sleet pellets earlier than our map that we're about to show you. That's just that transition trying to happen. It doesn't mean the forecast has changed or anything is off. So we'll start things off with our timing to change over to snow. This is when we expect the first snowflakes to begin mixing in, not necessarily accumulation. And the reason, again, we're 3 o'clock. By 5 o'clock, we could start to see some snowflakes up toward Greenville, especially Williamston, Plymouth. But we have a ways to go to get those temperatures down into the 30s, then down toward the 32-degree mark. We really need those temperatures to fall and the intensity to increase in terms of snowfall before we see accumulations. That still does not look like it's going to happen until overnight tonight. So this is the changeover to wet snow, starting 5 to 8 across the far north. Still looks like 8 to 11 kind of in the middle. And then after 11 down toward Jacksonville and Morehead City. Again, Jacksonville, Morehead City. Could you see a few sleet pellets 8, 9 o'clock at night? Yes. Will temperatures be well above freezing? Yes. So again, just kind of keep that in mind. Over toward the southern part of the Outer Banks, still expecting mainly rain for this event, but we'll certainly talk about you folks with regards to wind and coastal flooding here in a second. As far as the snowfall accumulation, the major change was overnight last night. Little to change with this update. So this is pretty much what you saw this morning on our 9 a.m. briefing. The highest amount still inland, 4 to 6 inches, especially north of New Bern up toward Greenville and Plymouth. A coating to 1 inch or 2 along the Crystal Coast. As you get away from the coast, that's more likely. So picking on Carteret County, that would be much more likely over toward the Stella and say Cape Carteret area, then down East Carteret toward Cedar Island. The farther north and west you get away from the coast, the higher amounts of snowfall. For you folks on the Outer Banks, we do not have accumulating snow for like Frisco and Rodanthe, but we do think we could have a light coating of snow, especially the northern part of the Outer Banks. This happens a lot up toward the Manio area, the northern part of the county itself. We've been showing this. This has been pretty consistent still. This is our reasonable worst case scenario. The main point of this is to show you what a 10% chance is. A reasonable worst case would be the highest amounts across the northern part of the area. Our 4 to 6 is the official forecast, but the models continue to suggest that some areas are going to see locally higher amounts. We're going to get a band of heavy snow developing, and that's where we'll see some isolated totals that could be more than 6 inches. If it were to happen anywhere, it would be most likely in that darker blue and especially yellow shaded area. The other point of this graphic is, again, for you folks along the coast, is our forecast going to change drastically in the next couple of hours? Probably not. Our worst case scenario is still kind of meeting our most likely one, which is a coating to 1 inch or 2 along the immediate Crystal Coast. As far as when snowfall ends, we expect a period of heavy snow tonight, and then as it transitions toward the coast, the intensity will diminish. So we expect the snow to end abruptly between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. in that pink shaded area. You folks in the yellow shaded area, a little more complicated. We put 9 to 11, but it's not going to necessarily end. It's going to lessen in intensity, and for some folks like New Bern and Jacksonville, it'll come to an end. But say Morehead City toward the Outer Banks, it'll become so light, we might actually see a transition back to rainfall during that time. But for all intents and purposes, ending by 9 a.m. for the area in pink, and by 11 a.m. for the areas in yellow. But again, along the immediate coast, that intensity will really diminish tomorrow morning after 9 o'clock, and it may actually end as a period of a little bit of rain. The other factor, especially for you folks on the coast, will be wind speeds. Winds 30, 35 miles per hour for most of the area. When that happens with falling snow, we will have some reduced visibility. The snow is going to be very, very wet, so it will cling to everything. So we may have some scattered power outages because of that combination of heavy weight of snow and wind speed. The bigger impact from wind will be along the coast. Those wind speeds above tropical storm force winds, 45 to 52 miles per hour, Frisco and Rodanthe. In addition, it's from the due north. So that is going to continue to raise our water levels. We've already seen some elevated water levels on the southern end of the Pamlico Sound. That will continue, and at high tide is when we're concerned with some coastal flooding. This is a sound side issue. We've zoomed in on this map to give you a little bit better perspective. But again, the wind is pretty much due north, so that's piling up the water on the southern end of the sounds. So places like Hatteras Village, Ocracoke, even Havelock, North Harlow, Clubfoot Creek, those areas, 1 to 2 feet above ground. What we mean is normally dry areas, low-lying areas near those waterways could see 1 to 2 feet of inundation. We did circle an area in red. If we're going to see upwards of 3 feet, it would be specifically the down east area of Carteret, and specifically from Atlantic down Route 12 towards Cedar Island. So if we're going to see some higher values, that's where it would be due to that due northerly component of the wind speed. All right, if that wasn't enough for you all, during the day tomorrow we are going to get up around 40 degrees, and if you only see an inch or so of snow, a lot of that's going to melt and go away, which is good news. For you folks that have any slush, anything wet, anything that's sticking around Friday evening, it will refreeze. We have temperatures in the teens to 20s Friday night, so keep that in mind. And again, this is especially for those folks that see more snow. If you wake up tomorrow morning and you have 2, 3, 4 inches of snow, you're probably going to have issues again Friday night, whether that's melting snow or any wet roadways. So something to keep in mind. I don't have a graphic about it, but still we're aiming for highs around 60 on Sunday. So we do like to end with a little bit of good news. As far as the some housekeeping before I turn it over to you, this is our last briefing. We don't anticipate any more updates overnight.